every time, or is that something where you already have a preset thing that you just kind of
No,
play?
I do it every time.
Okay.
That's why I pulled this up right here.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I pulled this up so I can read it, because
Fair.
otherwise I don't know off the top of my head yet.
Remember when you were like a kid back in the day? I used to get like so anxious if you were in the middle of class and be like, okay, you're looking at which paragraph that you had to read.
Yeah,
you're going through all the different sections. You're like,
You knew which one you had to read?
oh yeah, like you could be like, oh yeah, you knew kind of like what paragraph was coming up, and you'd be like, you'd scan it before, it would come around to you and be like, oh,
Check
man,
for any words.
I was gonna say, is there a word I'm gonna fuck up in here? Like, I don't know how to pronounce that.
What is this word?
Oh wait, thorough. Well, duh.
Thorough?
Thesaurus.
Thesaurus. On that note, hello and welcome to the Average Bros Gym Podcast. We are your hosts with eerily similar names, Corey and Croy, and we're going to walk you through fitness, health, and life advice with no polarizing takes. None of those. We don't polarize. Is that a polarizing take? Do you not have any polarizing takes?
It might be.
Oh, crap. Well, that's fine.
That's like polarizing take inception.
Yeah, well, we're not going to threaten you. And we're not going to also tell you the only way to do things. We're going to give you a little bit more of a range of motion of things to do. I just coached for 6 hours. That's why I said range of motion. But like, that makes sense though. Like a range of things to do, like a range of motion. And this is episode 2.
Number 2. Well,
3
ish.
Yeah, we tried to record last week, and the audio was a little scuffed. We're actually in the same room now. We're in the same place together.
Yes.
So you can put your drink down. It's gonna make a noise, but that's okay.
I might.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
It is. So currently sipping on, if you guys have never been, definitely check out Unmapped Brewing. Also attached to, what was the name?
You said
Base Camp Coffee Shop.
You added an extra R in there. Unmapped Brewing.
Yep, see? That's where I would have gotten anxious in the middle of class. I don't know how to pronounce brewing.
What's brewing?
Currently sipping on the Happy Camper. No, this is not sponsored, by the way. And Croy, what do you have there?
Dangerous Man Cream Ale. It is currently like 2:30 p.m., but it's been a morning already. And there is there is football on.
Yeah.
So
no, Vikings.
I'm validated. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not watching that game. I should maybe have that head on. I did 2 screens, but
when we were at the coffee spot, it wasn't that stellar of a game. I think Nick Mullins threw 2 picks already. Dude, if you didn't see the one pick, he got dragged down. His ass cheek was about to hit the ground.
Yeah.
And flung it out to try to get it out and threw it right into the guy's chest. And it was a pick. Defensive lineman gets a pick. It was right before the half. He just tried to get it out. It was a ridiculous play. If you didn't see it, you'll laugh.
I saw you threw an interception on the 1 yard line. That makes me happy.
I mean, but then you look at our defense, dude. We have a stellar squad. If Kirk hadn't gotten hurt, there's potential there.
Yeah,
there's potential. Yeah, but you know, I feel like that's the most Minnesotan thing ever to say about the Vikings. Like, oh yeah, we have potential. You know, could have been. What could have been? Yeah.
Let's not list off the years here, buddy. We could go 98. We could go 2009. We could go 2016. I think was the Walsh. I was there at the game. I should know.
That was rough. I remember recording. This was back on like the old school phones, so the video quality was even worse.
Yeah.
But I remember like, oh, we're about to win. I'm gonna record this, send it to all my Green Bay Packer buddies, and have that instant.
Why did you do
reaction.
that?
I probably jinxed it. To be
honestly,
honest, from
Walsh
afar.
missed the kick because of you.
Yeah, I apologize to Minnesota Vikings fandom for the Blair Walsh kick. I will take complete 100% ownership.
And for talking about this in the way that we are when you didn't expect this to happen, so I apologize. But if anybody's listening to us and they're not a Vikings fan, then 1, you don't know what we're talking about, and 2, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But if you are a Vikings fan, then you know the pain and heartache that we've gone through.
So much pain and so much heartache.
Oh, yes.
Well, today's focus is probably, might be a little bit off rails, but we're going to talk about our gym awakening. So basically kind of like what inspired us to, as youths, as children,
youngins,
get into fitness and exercise. Because, I mean, a lot of people out there, they're getting into fitness for the first time. And they might be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. And it's like, how do you then reconcile that with like, people that started when they were super young and kind of like, it's never too late. But kind of maybe some interesting thoughts on how we got into it and what started with us. My first thing that pops in my head when we talked about this earlier was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and of course Arnold, right? If you don't know,
just a first name, that's all you need. Just Arnold. There is no other.
Yeah.
I mean, can you think of any other Arnold? When you say Arnold, it's pretty much general consensus. It's
I was gonna say the Aardvark, but that's Arthur.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, Arnold. I was like, oh god. Arnold sounds pretty funny though.
Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold, that's right.
That's football
head.
There we
Hey, football, full circle back to football head.
Yep. Wow.
But yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, obviously he was a old school bodybuilder. Like, people would probably say people would probably say it was a golden age of bodybuilding. In fact,
100.
they do have a classic bodybuilding. I believe they do have a new what's the word for it? Like, not station. Category. Why did I say that in a weird accent?
Category.
They have a new category called classic bodybuilding, which is kind of like the kind of like Chris Bumstead, right? Yeah, that's kind of what he's doing.
New Age Arnold.
Yeah. So it's more kind of aesthetics based. But so anyways, he's kind of championed that, of course, and he's very, very well known for that. But when I remember him, he was in the 1987 movie Predator. I believe it was 1987.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was like, and I had been I think I'd been into sports before. I was sports growing up. My parents had me in sports very early. Like, I played t-ball and all that crap, right? So growing up, played sports quite a bit. I had an older brother who, shout out Remy, he'll have on the podcast at some point. He's a doctor. So it's health fitness. So I like saying that. I don't know why. It's kind of like, I'm like a doctor by proxy. I'm like,
did you know my brother's a doctor? He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so he's got the book smarts. I've got the
other smarts.
Yeah. Anyways, trailing off, but so I've got the charisma. He's pretty charismatic dude too. But so with Arnold, it was like 1987 movie Predator. Like, I had a brother exercise growing up, so I'd seen fitness and I had been involved. But I remember watching that movie in Canada at my parents' place, and it was like, we watched an old VHS. We had the generator hooked up to the electron to get like the electricity in the house, and we watched Predator, and like, he's in his movie era at that time, his movie star era. Like, he's done. I think Terminator's already done. I think that was 86. I mean, a little bit earlier. Predator is kind of, and he's done some other stuff too. And then Predator comes out, and there's that classic scene that you and I have recreated with him and Carl Weathers, former collegiate football player Carl Weathers.
Oh yes.
Where we do that high five fist, not fist bump, but like the fist grab.
It's like a clasping.
It's a clasping, and they're flexing, and their biceps are, and the camera zooms in on the biceps. And
it's a perfect. It's a perfect shot.
It's amazing. And so that was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I remember watching that movie, and I'm like, and everybody's jacked in that movie.
Oh, ridiculous.
Yeah, you got like future governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, in that movie, who was a former professional wrestler.
He ain't got time to bleed.
He ain't got time to bleed. So many classic movies. One of the greatest movies. I mean, it's not, but it is.
But it is at the same time. Like, peak alpha male, like Schwarzenegger. I don't know. Everything about that movie.
Toxic masculinity. But it was very much like, it was very much an action movie. It was very much an 80s action movie. There was really, like, it's a Predator is this alien bounty hunter, basically, on Earth, and they're trying to fight him, and he has all these technologies I don't know. But anyways, so all the soldiers are for this special mission. Carl Weathers and Schwarzenegger and Ventura, they're all just jacked. Like, they're all just, I don't know, like, they're all just, so I think for me it was kind of like, okay, cool, that was kind of the aesthetic, or like that was kind of the physique that I was like, okay, cool, man, I want to look like that. Like, I want to have the biceps like this, and that was kind of, I think, when I started taking fitness more seriously, even though I was only like a 12 or 13 at the time. But I did remember, like, going into the YMCA after school, trying to get back into weightlifting, or getting into weightlifting rather, for the first time, kind of after seeing those movies and kind of seeing that result. So that was what I think about it, at least.
Well, and that whole era was just.
Oh yeah, Stallone.
Stallone. I mean, you got the Rocky movies, Rambo. Him coming out in that. You had, and then you get you get that whole era of Schwarzenegger, Stallone. I think eventually that bleeds into, like, I remember one of the first movies that I remember watching was The Rundown, I want to say it was, or Walking Tall. Never mind.
Oh, with
Walking Tall with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And I remember a memory that I had sitting down on the couch watching for the first time, and there's a scene where Dwayne The Rock Johnson comes back. He's visiting his family after being I think he was like, ex-military or service. And
of course.
Yeah, at some point in that movie.
They're messing with his family. You never mess with the man's family.
No, ever. John Wick. Yeah, all those things. But there's a scene anyways where The Rock takes off his shirt. He's changing in his room. And I remember looking at his physique and just like broad shoulders, like massive chest, biceps, triceps, everything. And I'm at this point, I think I'm somewhere in middle school. Sure. So saying that same like impressionable age, you're kind of coming to your own. And I remember my dad kind of caught me as I'm sitting there watching on the couch. I get to the scene, he's popping off his top and taking off the pump cover. And I look at The Rock and middle school me, I look down at my chest because I was just sitting there as a little kid shirtless, and I kind of try to flex my pecs like The Rock, and my dad just starts chuckling. I can hear him over in the corner, because he sees like, oh, all right, The Rock right there, he's trying to like, kind of compare.
A light bulb goes off.
Yeah, cool. Comparing physiques a little bit.
He's either gay or he really wants to work out. Like he's one of the two.
Hey, let's also not. I mean, also I'm pretty sure if he hasn't been already, he was definitely probably voted as one of Hollywood's more
sexiest man alive.
Yeah, there we go. He definitely has gotten to be out.
The Rock, and I mean, if you look, okay, let's take a minute to think about Fast and Furious franchise.
Oh, there you go.
Who of those dudes have not been? I mean, okay, The Rock wasn't. He was in a couple of those movies. Jason Statham was, or wasn't he?
There's another guy, also action star, also ripped, shredded.
Jason Statham. Oh, yeah, of course.
Action stars.
Statham. He had to have been voted sexiest man alive at least once.
I would imagine so. Chiseled jawline.
He was a former diver, fun fact. Former collegiate or university diver. I don't know what they call it in England. Yeah. That's impressive.
Also practices like a fair amount of like mixed martial arts, I feel too.
You would know that.
Well, I mean, talking about like also like I was thinking about this on the way over. Like, all right, because obviously we were going to go the cinema route because that plays such a huge role.
Watching movies growing up.
Oh, absolutely. And those classics, Predator, Rambo, Rocky, all those classics. But then also, I remember, speaking of the martial arts route, that was also around the same time when I remember like UFC starting to get big. And I remember watching some of those fights and like, gentleman that most people should know, Chuck Liddell. I feel like you emulate Chuck Liddell's look. Sans, I mean, he had a goatee and the mohawk. I did have a mohawk for a little bit.
And yes, that's true. You don't have either one right now. You've got a beard and you've got kind of like short buzz / like, what do you call it, bald? What do you call it, bald?
I mean, pretty much.
I call it bald.
It's pretty much bald. Yeah, short and sassy, as I like to describe it.
Short and sassy. That is, yeah. So, and that's not quite Chuck Liddell's look, but I feel like you remind me of Chuck Liddell.
I will take that compliment. Yeah, every day. But I mean, so then you get, the sporting aspect of it, where I remember Chuck Liddell, UFC popping off. I mean, then we could go like the NFL route, those hard hitting linebackers, Ray Lewis, Ed Reeds of the world, and then it was that competitive nature as well. You looked at their physique, these big, fast, muscle bound athletes, and it was just, I feel like that kind of spurred, I think probably for both of us, that competitive element. There's wanting to get in the gym, like, how do I look like that, and I feel like for most people, and speaking to guys especially, they definitely have had at one point or another those different figures within their life that played I would argue a pretty critical role into their, as you mentioned, getting into health and fitness to begin with. Like, how many people saw Arnold, if we go back even before Predator, and pumping iron, which is another thing that really bounced off, because that was the first, I would argue, big cornerstone movement into health and fitness. Like, prior to pumping iron, there wasn't that many people
that... So it was 76? Or mid-70s?
It was some like early 70s. And then like when Arnold popped on the scene, the Austrian Oak, I mean, just took bodybuilding and took it, I think, at that point, global. I mean, everyone was like, how do you look like that guy? And
he was the first person, well, and I say this, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I feel like he was probably one of the first people to look like that, maybe to American audiences at least.
Yes.
I mean, again, that's mid-70s. I mean, and for the most part, I mean, if you look at like the health and wellness, I mean, like you said, kind of that fitness craze didn't really start until kind of that era. I mean, the 60s, you still got like, I don't know.
Well, you had sport. You still had like basketball and football and all those things. But
61. I mean, the Vikings started in 61, so you still had the NFL and stuff like that too. Guys are still working out, but
specifically gearing towards health and fitness. And I think a lot of credit should go, and rightfully, to Arnold for really kind of bringing in that whole movement to, okay, how can we shape our bodies and our physiques, putting on muscle mass. And then I think at that point he got that ball rolling, and now it's evolved into all of these different realms. Like you can still talk sport respectively, and that was all present beforehand, but bringing it to bodybuilding. And because not only was Arnold sculpted with this massive physique, but then it also brought like weight training and strength training. So then you stem off of that, like powerlifting, and it just brought so much more eyes to that sport and open people up to, ooh, what is this? And how can I get into that? So I think Arnold definitely was a huge proponent into getting people into their health and fitness for sure.
And that was for sure. And that was definitely kind of like mine. I'd say too, and this is a different route. I wouldn't say it's maybe as impactful, but the television anime Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
that was that was.
So, that's a good one. I didn't think about that.
Here's the deal. No one knows what I'm talking about. It's okay. So, Dragon Ball Z was a show that came out early '90s, and it's if you don't know anything about anime, I'm gonna get real nerdy for you a second. So, anime is like Japanese animation. It's usually based on like comics, right? So it's usually like you have a comic, and then people make like a TV adaptation of it, right? It's kind of like in American culture, it's like you write a book and then you make a movie out of it, right? It's kind of the same process, slightly different, but so. Dragon Ball Z came out like early '90s, and it's there's really no plot. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna refer to you on this one.
It's really it's like there's a bunch of like dudes from like an alien race, but they look like humans. They've got like tails, classic, but like they basically the idea of the show is get stronger. Like you have an enemy to defeat, and you fight the enemy. And then like you beat the enemy, okay, then a stronger enemy comes, and so it's like it just goes back and forth. It's like a ping pong of like you have to get stronger to defeat the current enemy, you beat them, then another enemy appears, so you get stronger to beat them, so you go back and forth. But characters from these shows are all like, obviously it's animation, it's not real life people. They're all like 4% body fat. And it's like it's all it's all these fighters that are like they're fighting each other, and they're all jacked, and they've all got 18 packs, right? 8 packs maybe, whatever. But the whole idea of the show is like you got to train to get stronger.
Yeah.
So they always have all these training montages where it's like these characters are either like fighting like shooting energy blasts into mountains, which obviously I can't do. I've tried.
I was just
not gonna.
We've all done it.
It's been like at least a couple of days since I've tried, but I've tried it. Or they're like fighting each other, which is like boxing or like martial arts, right? Or they're doing like just thousands and thousands of push-ups and sit-ups and crunches, which of course is whatever. It's not gonna work, but like it's like that kind of training style. I think like as a young kid watching that growing up, I was like, oh man, like the main character is like Goku, right?
Yep.
Like, and you say that name, and people are gonna remember, like, know what you're talking about. It's like I want to be like as strong as Goku. I want to be like work out, like train like him. Like that series had a major impact. Watching like these characters, like part of in one particular saga, Goku is visiting like a planet because he has to like fight. Like there's some evil creature, Frieza, who's trying to like blow up this planet, right?
OG villain.
I'm saying one of the OG villains, the second saga or whatever. And so like Goku is like traveling there, but I think if I remember correctly, and I have not seen this in quite a few years, but he's traveling via spaceship, and on the spaceship you have the ability to increase gravity, and so he increases the gravity by like 100 or 1,000 times, and like like physically that might actually break your bones. I don't know, like turn into a pile of jelly.
It's essentially resistance training.
Yeah. But in the show, like he's like training and like doing push-ups and like whatever, like at this 1,000 times gravity or even more. I don't even remember what the number was, but it's like I don't know, that definitely made me probably like get up out of my seat and start busting out some push-ups.
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
100%.
And so I think like I don't know, you look at these fitness influences and they don't have to be like. They don't have to be profound or like make a lot of sense to other people.
No,
I think it's really cool that you like see these people and you're like, man, like I want to look like that or I want to train like that. And I think that any inspiration is good inspiration in that regard.
100%.
Like that's crazy to think about.
Well, it's like whatever you can draw inspiration from to, guide you and assist you in your various training endeavor, I mean, it's huge. So funny that you bring up Dragon Ball Z, because there is a clip in a specific scene that is one of my go-to, you could call it PR videos, I guess you could say. Okay. So, for a lot of people, I should actually just speak for myself here, but I have a couple different, either songs or music bits or whatever that it might be to just put me in that mentality.
So this is when you're trying to lift like the most weight possible.
Yes. Yeah. Like you got to flip. And for anybody that is trained long enough, that is like lifting some heavy weight or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
You got to find some form, or, for some people find some maybe form of like external motivation, both, internal, external, but like this is one that just gets me hyped up.
Sure.
And so it's when Goku turns Super Saiyan 3 for the first time.
Yes, of course.
And again, this is coming from a guy.
Yeah.
So I think we would both agree that you're more of the expert in the, what would you call it, Goku, like anime,
I mean, expert's a loose term, but sure, I probably know more than you do.
Okay, we'll keep it as that. But obviously, I'm familiar with...
In this particular scene, this is, of course, when Majin Buu arrives.
See, there we go.
Yes. And Majin Buu is the is the next strongest fighter that these heroes must fight. So yes, continue. Yeah.
And speaking of Super Saiyan 3, as Croy was talking about, their whole premise, or part of the premise of the show is to continue to train, continue to get stronger, continue to level up. And you could argue that, or not even argue, just is factual. Goku starts off, and then you can get to this, you would say next level, which is Super Saiyan.
Right.
Like, his power level's 9,000.
Yes.
And would go Super Saiyan. Yes.
This alien race that they are called the Saiyans. And so Super Saiyan is like a legendary in the lore of the show, which again is not very deep. But it, like, the Super Saiyan is like this legendary figure, like this power level that no one's ever, or like maybe I can't remember exactly. Maybe some people got like a long time ago, but it's like this legendary power level, and so obviously you're trying to train to achieve this. And like I think what you're saying is like it's basically progressive overload. It's basically like, hey, like my squat is 20 pounds today. I want to make it 200. How do I do that, right? So like Goku's at Kaioken times 20. And he wants to get Super Saiyan 3. You have to train to do that.
Well, and then like the whole, when he does go Super Saiyan 3, he gets to this point where he's again trying to battle this character or whatnot, and just starts screaming, running all this stuff. And if you want to look up the clip, by all means, the next time that you go to PR your back squat or deadlift, go check out Goku Super Saiyan 3. Listen to that clip and just go bananas.
Probably like 12 million views on YouTube. That thing is probably the most watched.
100%. Yeah. But it's funny that you bring that up, because as a kid, talking about Arnold and talking about Stallone and talking about Goku, I think I referenced back to podcast number 1, Training from a Marathon. I would listen to a lot of the motivational mixes. Sure. A lot of those individuals that I would find that motivation from also happen to be a lot of those big impactful figures that I had as a child. And so on those motivational mixes, who are those individuals? It's the Stallone speeches, and it's the Arnold speeches, and getting you hyped up. Goku in that instance as well, just gets me to another mental state to be able to really push myself physically, which I think is incredibly powerful. So, and when you look at those big impactful people in your life as a kid and how that translates, throughout your middle school, high school, collegiate, and then there on after, career when it comes to health and fitness. I mean, that's a very important thing, like how those shape your perspective when it comes to like health and fitness, maybe what you find passion for. Like, loved pumping iron, loved all the Arnold things. I didn't necessarily get into bodybuilding, but for a lot of guys, I would say that's probably where they started potentially, is like they want to put on some mass. And as long as that was the little door that was open for you by watching Dragon Ball Z, by watching Pumping Iron, by watching Rambo, or whatever that thing was for you, what door did that open to now bringing you to the place where you're currently at? And for you and I, we were fortunate enough that we found some of those inspirational and role models in our lives when we were younger, and so that allowed us to get into the health and fitness and prioritizing that at a much younger age, which is going to be incredibly beneficial in the long run, and in terms of increasing your health span, putting on more muscle mass, all those things. But even if you weren't there and you didn't have those different role models in your life as a child, and you're now in your 40s or 50s, and now you come across somebody that you can draw that inspiration off of, you see a movie, you see a clip, I mean, pick that up and run with it. You know, if all of a sudden watching now, I guess what would maybe like a today's equivalent be if someone, Arnold was our guy back in the day.
Yeah.
Now you could say, you mentioned Chris Bumstead, somebody's watching him and like, hey, get into the gym then. Like whatever you can draw inspiration of, if that's going to open that door for you to now pursue your various health and fitness endeavors, that is huge.
There's a new generation of kind of like action heroes as well. I mean, you look at Chris Hemsworth has done a couple. Yeah, is that the Extractor? Is that him? I mean, obviously it's Thor. There's Thor, Marvel whole other thing, but I think you are looking at like, kids these days, like cool. Like if that is what they're drawing from, like these Marvel movies. I mean, like you're also looking at like yes, there's definitely a big change as far as like physically goes when we're looking at.
Yes.
When we're looking at kind of the 80s action star versus like the 2020s action star, like there's definitely a shift in physicality. And I think a lot of that is geared towards like just, cultural shifts and kind of like what we deem as like important, which is totally fine. But I think in terms of like a fitness thing, like definitely look for those people that inspire you. Definitely look for kind of, it's not a question of, and I think we get in this dangerous territory of looking at people like Bumstead, or like looking at these titans really of the fitness industry and saying like, oh, I wish I could look like them, or why don't I look like them? This comparative tool. That's one thing that as a child, when you're looking at someone like that, you don't have that same feeling. Because as a child, I don't think you can conceptualize that kind of feeling of like guilt or shame and like not looking a certain way. Versus as an adult, I think like it is easy to feel like, oh man, I'm in my 30s. Why don't I look like bums? Why can't I look like these people, right? Yeah. So I think that is one extra trap that you fall into. But I think the idea is like, hey, it's okay to feel like, hey, I want to look like this person. That genetics are different. So like I could be the exact same muscle mass and the exact same body fat percentage, exact same height, exact same weight, whatever as Bumstead, and I would look completely different. Because of the way my body is structured, because of my lever arms, because of where my bones, like where my muscles insert. Yep. But I think it's like that's still an ideal that we can still try for. Like I can know that I will look different than someone like Arnold at his peak, or someone like, if we look at the CrossFit realm, like like a Rich Froning or like a whomever, like I'm gonna look different than these guys. But I can be like that. I can be my own version of them. And I think like if you are kind of starting off in your fitness journey, or like you do have that person you look up to, like keep looking up to that. Know that you are fine the way you are, and know that like you, even at their fitness level, will look completely different, and that's okay because you're a different person. But like having those people, those idols to look up to, like I looked up to a fucking 2D character. Like I'm not gonna look like Goku, bro. Like I don't have like, but actually Trunks is my favorite, but I feel like he was a little bit whiny, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I was the same way. Anyways, Trunks had a big sword, so that's why I liked him. He had a pretty cool sword. So, point being, you're gonna look up, like you're gonna see these people, and they're gonna be different than them. But like it's okay to have these like fitness icons, these people, these goals that you look up to, that you want to like emulate. Like that's super normal. Be okay with yourself, but at the same time, like know that like that is okay to strive for, and like you don't have to compare, because like that's not. I don't know. That's not going to, like, the comparison's not going to do any good, but, like, striving to achieve something will be really beneficial for you.
Well, I think you bring up, like, a really interesting point, too, when you recognize the cultural shift that occurred a little bit, like when we were talking about the, 70s era of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then the 80s, the action star, and 90s, you would say, like, really popped off, and it was for males in those action roles, the big hulking physiques. And I feel like that's kind of changed a little bit. Like, now you would say, like, what is the closest equivalent to that today? It's like The Rock, but he's kind of the anomaly now. Like now that's the movies John Wicks that are,
Exactly. It's like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Like great action star. Obviously he 100%. Was Neo in The Matrix. Yeah. I mean, come on. He was Shane Falco in The Replacements. Fucking love that movie. I'm the only person who, like, no one probably knows what I'm talking about, but I love that movie. But so here's the deal, like you have guys like Keanu, you have guys like even Chris Hemsworth, like yes, in Thor he's massive.
If you the weird one though, is like if you go back to like original Thor, and you look back to, and this is maybe a little bit of a tangent too that we can go down, but when that dude, he was on some sauce for this last one. I mean,
okay.
my good. And again, everyone that we've already talked about.
Everybody is. Yeah.
I mean, holy shit.
But, okay, well then we'll take. Okay, we'll put Chris Hemsworth on the other side. Let's say like Tom Hiddleston, like Loki, Loki is. I mean, he's got his own show now. It's an action star. Mm-hmm. He is absolutely action star, but his very character is supposed to be this very. I mean, Loki in mythology was very, very interesting character. We'll get into that at some point. I'm a pretty big nerd, but the idea is like there is that shift. You're right. I think like maybe people that are looking for these fitness icons or these people to look up to are either looking for something different, which is awesome. Look for something different. Like live your truth. Mm-hmm. As far as your own health and wellness goes, like if you want to look a certain way or perform a certain way, awesome, go for that. But I think also like you're looking at different places now, rather than maybe just like the fitness or rather than just the movie realm. You're looking at different areas for kind of like your fitness icons that you're checking out. So
who would you say is kind of like what are yours right now that you have?
Oh man,
you know, like we were talking childhood, but you know, like now where.
Man, it's probably enough to just fucking get to the gym. At this point in my life, it's just enough to get to the gym. But yeah, no, I definitely look at. Man, I'm trying to think of like the last time I looked at like someone or like
or does it kind of just change? Like you have those, you know, figures that you look up to, and then now as you get onto your like own health, you're finding just more of like an intrinsic motivation, things that you enjoy. Yeah, you know, just for your own just.
Well, and that too, for sure. Like, obviously, like, I go to the gym for multiple variations, but okay, nope, Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, no, I forgot about that. I was thinking of, like, because I was thinking of the past Rocky movies, because you mentioned that. Because, like, if you look at, like, Rocky 3, right?
Is that Mr. T?
Yeah, but it was, I remember the training scenes between... and if your knowledge of 80s movies is like lacking, you're gonna hate this podcast at this point. But
do yourself a favor and go watch them anyway. Like, come on.
If you look at Rocky 3 and you look at like Carl Weathers, for instance, like I think it's just like for me, I think that was kind of what I was looking. It's just like a leaner dude, but like he's not like super. I mean, he's jacked,
athletic,
but he's a former football player, so it's like he's not you know muscled to the extreme. Mm-hmm. And then you look at like. MBJ, and like I think he's a good indication of kind of like what that kind of like modern action star, but kind of like but he has variety to him, right? Mm-hmm. You know, it's like I think so I remember watching the original Black Panther, and you know R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
Quick here. But I remember watching the original Black Panther and watching T'Challa's fight with Michael B. Jordan's character, Killmonger. And that, like, I wanted to sprint out of the gym, or sprint out of the movie theater and go to the gym. Seriously, I was so hyped.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, fuck, I was punching my fist. I was just like, I wanted to go lift weights so bad after seeing that scene where they're fighting in the river. And this is the first one where Killmonger emerges the victor and Chadwick's character is defeated. Oh, man. I was like, I'm gonna go lift weight. Mm-hmm. So I don't. Maybe that'd be my thing now, I guess.
Well, and then I think back to also a lot of those sports movies.
Yeah.
You know, like you had brought up their placements, but I remember watching Friday Night Lights for the first time. Movie, not TV show. I haven't seen the TV show, so I can't speak to that. Movie
heard
with
it's good. Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton and just a great little cast.
Gary Hedlund's in that movie.
I mean, watching those football movies and those scenes too. Yeah. I mean, just would get you amped up, or like at least for myself, amped up to a whole other level. Where after finishing that, first thing that I wanted to do was go right to the gym,
rip some pre-workout,
or do something. Like get out for a run, or just I feel the need to blow off some just energy and go do some stuff. I think another one, haven't talked about this, WWE. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Yeah. I remember getting into that.
Yes, of course.
Rafiki, Brock Lesnar, F5 and all those things too, and just like looking at those almost larger than life characters.
Yeah.
And just also to the physicality, like what their bodies were capable of. I was like, man, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Guys like jumping off the top rope, Lesnar's like throwing up the Big Show up on his shoulders, and you're like,
the Hardy Brothers, Undertaker. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Undertaker. I mean, like some of those guys were. You know, they were just big. Like Undertaker was just big. He wasn't like, shredded like Macho Man Randy Savage or anything like that. But like You know, you had just big dudes.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, brother.
You're like a combination of Macho Man Randy Savage. And
I feel like I'm closer to Macho Man Randy.
No, you're definitely distinctly Chuck Liddell, but you're like a Macho Man Randy Savage Chuck Liddell.
That's a good combo. I'll use that for my next Halloween costume.
You're Macho Man Chuck Liddell.
Yes. Oh, I'll take that.
Or Chuck Savage. that should be your alternate ego, Chuck Savage.
I feel like you could pull off a Randy Couture pretty well.
Me?
Yeah. Okay. Randy.
I'll take it.
Oh.
Randy's a funny name. All right. Corey, I think that's probably enough for today. We'll got some more stuff coming in down the pipeline, but any last thoughts for people maybe trying to find their fitness muse, if you will?
Yeah, I think, whoever those characters might be, if you find, again, inspiration in movies and cinema, if you come off, across like a random clip, even that person that you might already be in the gym and there's a guy or gal that's in there at the same times as you, and you always kind of find yourself like glancing over like, hey, what do they do? Again, the people that are in the gym oftentimes are some of the nicest people that you will meet. And if all of a sudden you're looking at their training or you're looking at their physique or their body, and that is something that you have like goals or aspirations to try to achieve, or be like, hey, what is that you do? If you find an area of opportunity in there as they're like maybe resting in between sets, if you come up with like a genuine curiosity and question like, hey, more often than not, like if somebody did that to me, and people have done that to me, I am more than willing for somebody that's just beginning their fitness journey, and you can kind of, recognize that with, a lot of people.
Sure.
That genuine curiosity and, wanting to know and learn more. Most of those individuals that you're going to find in the gym are going to be more than welcoming to you and be willing to answer questions and maybe potentially guide you, in some form or direction. I know I've had multiple people that throughout the course of my health and fitness journey have assisted me in navigating me along that process of, so I started getting into bodybuilding because I saw Arnold, and then all of a sudden it branched over because then I saw somebody, clean and jerking some weight on a platform. I was like, well, that looks pretty cool, and I haven't done that before. And, I know it might be a little bit nerve-wracking, it might be a little bit scary, but, if there's somebody like that in the gym, go up, introduce yourself, be like, hey, just, happy to see you here, would love to, learn a little bit more. What is it that you do? If it's the movie or action star, use that inspiration. If all of a sudden you're pent up and you're ready to rock and roll, get up for a walk, go for a run. Just, whatever you can draw that inspiration from, use that as fuel, and it, you will be blown away by what that, can lead you towards when it comes to your health and fitness. I think that's huge.
Cool. Wise words from Macho Man Chuck Savage.
Oh yeah,
oh, yeah, brother.
Brother.
All right, guys, that is it for us today for the Average Bros Gym podcast. Appreciate y'all tuning in, hanging out, and listening. So hopefully this was a good experience. We definitely want to hear from you. Please reach out at averagejoesgympodcast@gmail.com. We are also on X now, formerly Twitter. They actually say X, formerly Twitter, because people don't know what X is. Average Bros Gym Podcast. It's like AVG, average, and then Bros Gym Pod. Average Bros Gym Pod. I just made that the other night.
Instagram.
You have to be under 15 characters on Twitter for your name. Yeah. Instagram as well, Average Bros Gym Podcast. You'll be able to find us. It's that big microphone thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, we're there. So definitely follow us. Definitely send us any DM, any tweet, any whatever, any questions you may have. We'd like to do some question and ask, some Q&A answers as well. So
click like and subscribe.
Click, like, and subscribe. All the things. Share us with your friends, your neighbors, your enemies. Why not? They deserve to have some fitness advice too.
Agreed.
Anyways, y'all, let the music carry us out that we'll be playing while I'm editing this.
Right now.
There'll be music right now.
No.
Yeah. I'll probably fade our names out. Fade us out a little bit.